Hola friends, welcome to the Medicine, Marriage, and Money YouTube channel, the only channel for physicians who want to achieve marital interdependence and financial freedom together. On this channel, you will learn how to show up as the best version of yourself so that you can love intentionally and build a more financially savvy relationship with your spouse. And I am your host, a physician mom, a doctor's wife, a Gottman leader, a certified life and marriage coach, Dr. Kate Mangona. Welcome. Bienvenidos. Hello, sweet friends. Hello, sweet friends. My name is Kate Mangona. Welcome to another episode of Medicine, Marriage, and Money. Today, we're going to be talking about parenting. Okay, and I'm just going to briefly outline the different parenting techniques there are. This podcast episode focuses on what to do when you and your spouse have different parenting styles, different parenting techniques, and not necessarily on the actual different types of parenting. But I would like to first outline the four main parenting technique subgroups that were talked about years and years ago, and then kind of the newer ones that have been emerging the past decade. So if you look back at the parenting techniques, there were these four main subgroups people talked about: permissive, authoritative, uninvolved or neglectful, and authoritarian. And amongst my peer group, or amongst the group of even parents, like our parents, our generation of parents, I feel like either we're on more of the spectrum of authoritative versus authoritarian. I don't have many friends, and I don't know many people who are in the uninvolved spectrum, and I know a handful who are the permissive or the permissive parenting style. Now, in the last decade, there have been different other parenting techniques and styles like gentle parenting, positive parenting, conscious parenting, and all of those have their certain idiosyncrasies. And I'll just briefly touch on kind of like the main qualities of each one. So when you think of permissive parenting, you're really thinking of very, very low control and strictness. So just pretty much just accepting of anything your children do, lenient, not really directive, low expectations, just allowing whatever, avoiding confrontation, letting your children indulge, very few rules. Whereas you look at authoritative is more, they're very clear-cut standards. And it's democratic. So there's a little bit more flexibility than if you were to dip down into the authoritarian. There's definitely more flexibility, but there's also assertiveness, okay? And there's also more demands than, would say, permissive. So there'd be, let's talk about it, okay, responsive, reciprocal, as opposed to authoritarian, which is very high expectations, very little warmth. And certain cultures tend to favor the authoritarian versus the authoritative. Authoritarian, again, very clear rules. There are punishments. They're emotionally distant. And it's because I said so. You might be thinking of certain people in your lives right now as I'm talking about that. And then the last kind of the main four groups that have been around for a long time is the uninvolved. So completely absent, very not, no strict, no control, but and very low on the warmth scale as well. So uninterested, neglectful, passive. You're on your own, basically. I do not know many people who parent with this technique. And then recently, in the past decade or so, there's been the gentle parenting, the conscious parenting, the positive parenting, which is really understanding the emotional needs in parenting with intention, being able to encompass this philosophy that encourages parents to be mindful, emotionally intelligent, in raising their children. Now, my children go to a Montessori school, and they are very more of a gentle, conscious parenting, and they also don't believe in praise. Not praise for doing the normal everyday things. Like, say my toddler's learning to go to the bathroom in the potty. We're not supposed to even clap or say good job. They're supposed to be able to take that as something like is internal, instead of external. I'm blanking on the word, external reward. They have an internal reward system. So they learn when they go potty, they're happy for themselves. They don't need to rely on anybody else. Validation, that's what I'm getting at. The external validation isn't necessary because they've been taught from very, very young age, or whenever you start, that internal validation is the way to go. Okay, so why am I discussing all these different parenting techniques? Because it just so happens there's a lot of different nuances and differences. It's not saying that you're definitely authoritarian, or that you're definitely authoritative, or that you're definitely permissive, or, uninterested, neglectful, or gentle or conscious. You may switch in between these from day to day, month to month, the different phases of your child. And I am guessing that your spouse also is slightly different than you, and they may be on a different parenting style than you are today than they were yesterday, and that you are this month than you were last month. So say we turn around and our child is crying because they didn't get the meal they wanted for dinner, and your spouse is telling them stop crying. Big girls or big boys or whatever they want to call it, don't cry. Maybe they said that, big kids don't cry, or be grateful for what you have. You're having salmon and broccoli and rice tonight. We're doing macaroni and cheese tomorrow. Stop crying. And maybe you, and I've had clients with this situation, do not believe in telling your child to not cry. And you believe that your child is allowed to feel sad or angry or frustrated because they didn't get the meal of their choice. With as simple as something as maybe they wanted a cookie for dinner. Of course, you're not going to give them a cookie just for dinner, but you also want them to know that they can cry, and your spouse here is telling them that they can't cry, and you have conflict with that. That does not resonate with you. So there are 3 or 4 steps. The 4th is optional. 4 steps I like to discuss when I'm talking with my clients about parenting techniques, because this is one of the topics that comes out when you're talking about coaching and you're talking about couples and you're talking about your marriage and what's getting in between you and your spouse. A lot of it has to do with parenting styles. Once we start to have children and we start to realize my childhood was different than their childhood. I've been raised differently than they've been raised. And I have these differences in how I believe they should be raised. So number 1 is to, when you hear your spouse say, stop crying, or you hear your spouse saying, that was really a bad thing to do. I am really upset with you. I do not love, and there's all sorts of things that might trigger you. Maybe you're saying, maybe they say something like, I don't love you right now, right? For a lot of my audience, you're going to be like, I don't love you right now? Oh my gosh, like, would I ever say that to my child? No. Or do you want me to love you? That's like kind of bordering on the range of emotional blackmail. And a lot of you guys understand this, right? Do you children, is your love conditional? As parents, our love is unconditional. And I hope that as a spouse, as a partner, as an intimate lover, your love is also unconditional. Your love could have not taken out the trash today. Your love could have backed your car into the garage. Your love could have accidentally forgotten to feed the dog. And guess what? You still love them. Okay, that's unconditional love. Same thing with your child. Even though they get an F on an exam, even though they pull Sally's hair at school, even though they yell at their best friend and call them the F-bomb, you're not going to tell them that you don't love them. What if you do, right? What if you say, I don't love you right now? And worse, what if you hear your spouse tell them something like that? So kind of get your trigger. Okay, do you have a trigger 1, 2, or 3, 4 triggers that come into your mind when you're thinking your spouse and you have different parenting techniques, hold on to that. Okay, the next time, think about the last time they did it, think about the next time they were going to do it, because they'll probably do it again. This is why you're listening to this episode, so we can be prepared. The first thing I want you to do is nothing. Pause. Right when we hear them say that, stop crying. You're being a really bad person right now. I don't love you right now. Or maybe it's that they're bribing them with cake. Maybe they're bribing them with a TV show and you're not in line with that. The next time they do that, I want you to pause and do nothing. No reaction. Okay? No explosion. No, how could you say that? How dare you say that? Right in front of your child. Just want you to pause, do nothing at all, and then observe. Okay, observe is like the 1.5. Observe how your child reacts without offering anything yet, responding, no reacting. And the second thing I want you to do is be that person your child needs you to be in that moment. And that's usually not yelling at the love of your life. Actually, that's never yelling at the love of your life. If you guys are in love, if you want to be married, if you are in alignment with your goals and your values and your family, do not burst into anger in front of your children, back at your spouse, even though they've said something that's highly triggered you. Be that person instead that your child needs them to be. And if you're having a trouble figuring out what that looks like, you ask your little, or you ask yourself, what would love do right now? What does Isabella, Sophia need right now? What does Alexander need right now? Okay. And how is this actually helpful? How is this an opportunity for me to show my love, show my unconditional love? Not that you're showing up or over your spouse's unconditional love. Remember, this is also, right? Okay, because we're on step number 2, be that person your child needs you to be. Be that person your spouse needs you to be too. Okay, this is 2.5. Because they are not in their high energy state right now. And you don't need to respond to their low energy state. What you need to do is respond with your high energy state. We all make mistakes. We're all human. You know what? At some point, you're going to be in the shoes of your spouse and you're going to say something that you're going to regret later. How many of us in this room yell at our children occasionally? How many of us in this room or car, if you're in your car, are unhappy with something we just said or done to or with our child? All of us. And if your hands are not raised, you're lying to yourself. And if you're lying to yourself, you're lying to everybody else. And this is no way to live a life. Okay. Everybody's hands should be raised. They are human. You are human. Forgive them in advance for messing up. So decide how you're going to respond with your high energy state and feel it. Okay, is it with love? Is it with, and it doesn't have to be an actual oh, I know exactly what I'm going to say. It's, how do you want them to feel? Loved, encouraged, supported, cared for, comforted, and then let your body go there. Right? Remember the last time you felt supported and loved by a parent, or maybe by a best friend, or maybe it was your love. What did that look like? What did that feel like? Okay, do that. Do that now. Say those words. Be that for your child. Forget about your spouse for a second. They can be in the background. Maybe they're saying some stuff to you and just it's all about what your child needs. Okay. Then 2.5. Okay. What does your spouse need? Maybe they need time. Maybe they need space. Okay. Maybe they need words of affection. Maybe they need an embrace. Okay. Or they just need nothing. And then once you do that, you move on to step number 3. And I kind of briefly touched on this already, but you start asking your questions that are going to lead you to a higher energy state. Okay, so you're already, you already paused and did nothing, didn't react. You already started to think about how you wanted to be there for your child or spouse. And then 3, I want you to imagine this situation from outside. So pretend like you're the universe, the trees outside the window, or the air inside the room, or God. And look at this and see, how is my child learning from this right now? Why is this actually a good thing this happened? Maybe because of this, they're going to be able to deal with bullies at school later in life. Maybe because of this, they're going to be able to navigate when their future boyfriend or girlfriend or partner says something like this, how they're going to want to respond or not respond. Okay? How is this happening for you? So look at it with these more high energy questions, something that kind of brings you into a more elevated state. And then finally 4. And 4 is optional. Because once all of this is said and done, you haven't reacted, you've given your spouse space, you've given their child what you need. This fills you. Notice how I didn't say go give yourself what you need first, right? Because this is about your child right now. And by giving your child what they need, the love, the comfort, the support, that is going to give you what you need. Let that fuel you. And then go to step number 4, the optional, which is discuss it later with your spouse. Now, some of you might want to say, no, we have to have closure in front of the child. Like, they need to know that we can discuss and go through difficult times together, or have conflict. And if that is true, if you want to resolve this, if you consider this like a conflict you want to resolve in front of your child, do it without raising your voice, in a level tone. I encourage you, and for most of you, this might be more of a high, tense tone situation. You might want to do this later. Discuss this scenario. When you told Sophia not to cry the other day because she should have been a big girl, man, that really hurt my heart. Can we talk about that? Instead of, you should never have said that to her, or how could you have told her that she's going to not be the teacher, the singer, the lawyer, the doctor, the artist she wants to be because of the grade she made on that test. Like, don't start with like that, but figure out what it is, that right thing you want to say with your spouse. Maybe there is no right thing. Again, maybe come back to the emotion thing. How do you want your spouse to feel when you have this discussion? If you have the discussion, we don't all need to. And I will be completely honest, half the time when my spouse makes a comment that I don't like in front of my children, I don't have a conversation afterwards. You know why? Because there are a million things that I say in front of my child that I get upset about. Or it's mainly the demands. I'm very demanding. I tend to be very demanding and short and impatient. And I get so mad at myself afterwards. And my spouse, Victor, might remind me of that in the moment. And I'll be like, yeah, he's right. Sometimes I get defensive and sometimes I don't, depending on the day. But we don't have to have a whole nother discussion about it afterwards. I feel like that's over dramatizing it. It's overextending what really needs to be said. So you decide, do we want to have our conversation? Is this something very, very serious? Like, are they saying, I don't love you? Do you want me to love you? Was it the 20th time they said it? Or was it a slip up? Okay, and you decide that. And do you need to say it in front of somebody with a mediator, maybe a marriage coach, a relationship coach like myself? Or do you feel comfortable doing it on your own? And that is a highly personal decision. So I'm just going to run through those 4 steps again. Number 1 is to do nothing. Immediately when you're triggered, to pause. Do nothing, no reaction. Number 2 is to be that person your child needs you to be. And maybe your spouse too. Let that fill your cup with support, compassion, and love. Number 3, look at it from a different perspective, maybe the universe, the trees, the God, the wind. Okay, and ask yourself higher energy questions like, what is my child learning right now? What are we all learning from this situation right now? And then optional number 4, discuss it later, if you need to. And with that, I want to give you guys a couple pro tips about how to calm, diffuse a situation that I use with my children. Number one is the rainbow circle. When things are just out of control, I'm at my wit's end, I just want people to stop or leave me alone, what I tend to do is I pause, I lie on my back, I ask my children to come sit on either side of me, we hold hands. They actually love doing this now, and I don't have to escape when I get upset or afraid. They know this is safe, and we do the rainbow circle. And my children love it. You have to introduce it. It used to be, we used to do it at bedtime when things were really chaotic and stressful. Now I'll do it anytime. Okay, let's just please come just do the rainbow circle with me. Hold my hands or hug yourself. And we all pick a spot in our body and we pick the color it is, and maybe it has a certain sensation or feel. Okay, so I am feeling pink sparkly in my heart. I am feeling blue tingly in my toes. It doesn't have to make sense. Kids love it. This is maybe more for the elementary school and lower. The teens and higher might need a different technique, perhaps a meditation. You could still try it, right? If they're open, and if they're a Spotify meditation, we have different apps on our phones, and maybe it's just a mood switch, like the Alexa. I'll use Alexa in my house, and I'll play different songs, like the Mood Booster song app. I'll choose certain Shakira, or I'll choose Justin Bieber. You know, sometimes my younger kids my 2-year-old wants to listen to Coco Melon when things get stressful. Whatever it is, you just need a mood change. Okay, so rainbow circle, figure out that song, do that meditation. It could just be an embrace, no words at all, silence. Maybe it's putting some oil in your oil diffuser just to create a nice smell in the room. Okay, something to just kind of change it up, change the mood up. And how fast can you change your mood? You can change it in the snap of a finger. You have to be able to figure out what it is you need in that moment. That's the key. So with that, my friends, I have a couple important announcements to make. Number one, I hope by now, and if not, you have heard about Honeymoon 2.0. It's going to be absolute heaven. Sign up is available now. Please, please secure your spot now, because seats are going to go, you guys. This is going to be a luxury couples retreat for you and your honey. It's going to be set at the Four Seasons in Maui, October 7th through 11th, 2024, with me, yours truly, as one of the marriage coaches, and my co-host, Dr. Alexandra Stockwell, who has over 10 years, almost 11, of intimacy expert marriage coaching experience. More for that to come. Our husbands are going to be joining us and participating. We would love for you to sign up. This is going to be absolutely transformational. The experiences are going to be magical. The intimacy and playful challenges we're going to have set up are going to be magnetic. Come. So that's announcement number one. We'll have the link in show notes. And number two is I just started a 30-day intimacy challenge. Sign up and you will receive tips to your inbox every day of something to do, something to say, something, maybe it's just an embrace, a touch, it's some technique for you to try out or think about that will enhance the intimacy, the closeness of you and your spouse in your relationship. And the whole point, I'm launching this today to gear you up towards Valentine's Day. This is a Valentine's Day ready 30-day intimacy challenge. Sign up. The link will also be in the show notes. So much love to you and your spouse, to you and your family. If you are finding the concepts I teach in these episodes useful and want more in-depth and personalized support for your relationship, consider this your invitation to join me in creating the most connected and intimate relationship with your spouse that you could dream of. Go to www.medicinemarriageandmoney.com right now and download my 18-page medical marriage survival guide and workbook at no cost to you. I also have a 6-day marriage challenge, which goes over the 6 predictors of divorce at no cost to you. These have been known to decrease fighting, rumination, and grudges between you and your loved one. If you want to take it a step farther, really enhance the joy and connection in the most intimate relationship in your life, Sign up for my 8-week Making Marriage Work program today at medicinemarriageandmoney.com. Thanks for leaving us a stellar review, subscribing, and sharing with your friends on social media. You have the power to improve someone else's life and marriage simply by sharing this episode. Much love to you and your spouse. You're exactly where you need to be in this moment. Adios, my friends. The content of this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional, medical, or financial advice. The opinions provided on this episode are those of myself or the invited guest alone. They do not represent the opinions of any particular institution. Always seek the advice of your physician or financial advisor with any questions you may have of a medical condition or financial plan. This is for your entertainment only.